Right, so let's start. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session. We are going to talk through a few basic steps in how to use a reference manager, and for that, we are going to use a software called Mendeley. It's a free software which as I just put on the chat a couple of minutes back, you can install on your computer, be it a laptop, desktop, or even mobile. And as you'll see later, you can use it all on the cloud for the purpose of managing your references. Right. So before we go into all of that, I think I just have a few questions that I need answers from you. So I see that there are 29 or 30 participants right now. So I want some everyone to talk here, right? Okay, now this is so. Can someone give an answer? What is research? Why do you do research? Yes. Why do we really do research? Zikra, any comments? Zikra, can you answer this question? What is research, or why do we do research?
So we do a research because we identify a gap in there which is not researched or which is not given any sort of a solution like. So we do a research to bridge that gap.
Yes, correct. So you don't just do research because well, the idea is now, okay, you are doing research because it's a subject or a credited subject in your degree, but then what you research is for to find something like it should be either a gap in existing knowledge, basically, or you might have a problem which needs an answer. Which hasn't been found, and you might do research. So the best example I would say of research that is very valid today is vaccine research, right? COVID-19 is here. People are still researching on whether this. That's of course not applicable to our fields, but then that's a very relevant research. I mean, there's a lot of research which come across that. You can think of. So anyway, so who carries out research? Now, that question is probably easily answered because you are doing research. So obviously, undergraduates are one. So is it only undergraduates who do research? Who would do research? Tirini?
Sir, scientists and the people who are designing products, applications to get the users suggestions and everything.
Yes. So although yes, you said the word scientist. So yes, there's a lot of research done in sciences because sciences are mainly interested in broadening our knowledge in that sphere. And there's a lot of things we don't know, right? But then you could do research as a journalist, right? To find out, for example, find out whether there is truth in what's being said around, fact checking, for example. So that's one. I mean, you anyone could do research as long as the particular steps are followed. That could be considered as a research. But in our case, you are undergraduates. Then if you are doing a master's, PhD, or even I mean, those are common sets of people who do research. Essentially, everyone who does a research in all of these may not do very valuable research, but then in most of these courses, you find research is part of the study, right? Especially not at undergraduate level, but then when you go to masters, PhD, you need to do research in order to reflect that you have really contributed anything useful. Uh, so where do you publish your research? Okay, before that, now sometimes I'll just quickly, we are just trying to get some thoughts here. So what exactly now, you know about a master's, you know about an undergraduate. So what's different in a PhD, for example? Not that none of, I mean, okay, you are probably, you don't, it's not probably in your mind to do one right now. So what's different in research in a PhD, what's different in an ideal PhD than others? So any idea? Okay, there's a nice guide which I think you should look at. I'll link it here on the chat. I'll just take it. Okay, I'll just take it at this moment of time. Right. I hope you can see my desktop. Can everyone see my desktops? My browser screen.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Right. So this is a nice illustration. So basically, let's say if you draw a circle, which is the current knowledge of human knowledge, like let's say in every field, science, management, arts, psychology, medicine, whatever, right? So now we don't know everything in anywhere, right? Then when we learn elementary school, like grade 5, for example, we learn something which is very common knowledge, like let's say mathematics, something about history. When we go into high school, O level or A level, we know again it's more or less, is it uniform? No, normally when it comes to Sri Lankan A levels, we are more like maths, science or biology or zoology, whatever, or you doing arts or management. You know, there are some areas where you focus on, other areas you are not. Now with your bachelor's degree, which is what you are right now in, your knowledge is, well, this may not be exactly the picture, like you don't have a rounded knowledge below that, but then, you know, up to a certain extent you are specializing in one area. Now in your case, your specialization is business information systems, right? So if you want to learn more, most master's degrees give you this sort of edge. You are specializing even further, deeper in that area, right? Then if you read research papers, what actually helps you, if you read research papers which are current, right? If you can read research papers which are 50 years old, but if you're reading research papers which are current, if you read what is really happening in your field, the field that you are studying, then you get to know what's the latest trends that are happening. So it would take you to the edge of human knowledge. What's right now, what's now. So if you really have read well, you should be able to separate fact from fiction. Someone says, using a computer, we can identify people's faces. So whether that's possible or not, you can get the best, whether that's possible right now or not, is based on current research. And if you really read, you will be able to gather, okay, these people have done these things recently, but this has not been done like that, right? So, so if you are doing a PhD, for example, you should, not you are, I would say, you should actually be working at this edge. That is, you are focused in a very narrow area, but you're trying to find out something which no one else knows, right? And then it says you push at the boundary for a few years. So this is the boundary of knowledge in that area, right? And with your research work, until one day the boundary gives way. So our research publications actually help this dent, or your thesis should create, right? So that dent you made is called a PhD. So this is, I would probably say responsibly that every PhD doesn't make this dent, but in general most do. I mean, every PhDs are supposed to make this dent, but honorary PhDs, for example, given by like titles, you know, these certain very important people sometimes get titles. Those have now no contribution of this note, but a real PhD should actually create some new knowledge, right? By way of research, you create this dent, right? So I when I look back at my PhD, I would feel that. So if you are doing research work and if you really make a new contribution, you are expanding the knowledge available in that particular area in the world. You are expanding it further. So that's what I would say research is all about, right? So your research really should contribute to new knowledge, right? So in an undergraduate research, this is not very easy. But then you must be able to, at least you should know. If you can't, even if others know, you should know yourself. Or if an interview they ask, okay, what did you do for your research? You should be able to tell, right? I've done this, and it's unique, right? So it's not very easy. But then because at undergraduate level you don't have a lot of time. Number one, a PhD, for example, you spend around 3 years to try to do that sort of thing. Yeah. So where do you publish research? Where do you publish research? Judith, would you like to comment? Where would you publish your research work? Where would you where would you put your research work such that other people will know about it? Savindi? Yes, Judith? I can't hear you.
Hear me, sir?
Yeah, you can. I can hear you now. Yeah.
We can publish in research site.
Yeah, those are websites, but particularly when you talk of research, what are those research sites? I mean, you can distinguish a little bit further. Any Nipuni? Or
In journals.
yes, correct. So one of the place where you publish journal. So basically there are two types. I mean, there are a number of options for you to available. Now in your case, let's start with you. When you have done really something useful, if what you've written is very nice, I mean, well done, and it's worth sharing with others, we would select such research papers from undergraduates like yours and publish in what is called as a research symposium. So student research symposiums are what our university has. But if you would go further, we can publish in conferences, right? There are research conferences which are available in Sri Lanka and other countries where you can publish. So conferences actually have other opportunities. Like I would go for a conference because I like to meet people who are in the field, like to know what they are doing, to collaborate with them and things like that. So it's not just not just a presentation, but like meeting others as well. The gold standard, the best places to publish are journals. So if you look at in medicine, there is a Journal of New England Sciences, British Medical Journal, like with vaccines and stories like this. Those published in Lancet. I think is a well-known medical publication. In sciences, there's something called Nature. In computing, there is IEEE. IEEE is not it's actually is association, but then there are so many journals published by it. Likewise, there are different places. When it comes to management like disciplines, there is Emerald is actually a publisher. Then there is Elsevier, which is linked in this slide set, is one of the largest of them. So why do you publish it? Because we want others to know about it. And where do others look for? Usually you would be checking in journals or sites which have research articles. Conferences have their own publication locations, but journals, usually you search in say a repository which stores these files. So how do we access research articles? So we search, right? We search, but not on Google. Usually we need search on maybe a Google Scholar, or you could use one of those research repositories like EBSCOhost. There are, I think you would have done about those during the methodology course, right? So I think by now, you all have of at least 10, I would say, research articles. Is that correct? Now you are in a literature survey, right? Now you are in a literature, so you are reading, correct? So you have at least 10 articles. Is that correct? I guess so. So now in your literature survey, what are you doing? You are looking at who else has done this. right? Who else has done, the areas that are interested to you, and you're learning from them. Now, some of you look at, okay, this has been done in South Africa. I want to do this in Sri Lanka, right? So you use the same models and then the same question, and you bring it back to Sri Lanka and do the data survey. If you look at others, maybe they look at what's been done there, find a gap, and then that's the better way, I would say, rather than just port it or import it from somewhere else to here. Someone could argue saying that, okay, we don't know what happens in Sri Lanka, so you could do it for Sri Lanka. So why do we refer others' articles? Because we want to ensure that what we are doing is based on what others stopped at. We find the gap that the others identify using research, and then we identify. We learn the methods that others have done, and then we do something similar. For example, let's say you are selecting a sample size, then there are certain ways in which you select the sample. Then you select certain factors. When you select factors, you could why the obvious question is, why did you select those factors and not the others? So then you could always refer to research and say, look, I looked at these papers, in these people are using, so this is the most common factor used by this. Right, so I'm using that. Likewise, you can come out. So it's important that you refer to existing research work or you cite. The good thing is, if your research is a highly cited research, or if others are citing yours well, then actually it is an indication of how valuable your research is, right? So do you know what Google Scholar is? What is Google Scholar? Indunil, can you tell me?
So it's something like a software which we can download the articles which are not which are not given permission in other sites. So by getting those link, we can in the Sci-Hub we can download articles.
Yes. So yeah, okay. So Google Scholar has basically it's a database of research, but at least when you look at, if you want to compare, now for example, if I have a Google Scholar page which is here. So it tells someone, if someone was finding out, okay, has Lasit Guruvardhan done research, it tells others, yes, these are possibly his. Unless usually it is verified pages. If it's so, they are confirmed. So these are the articles that I have been writing in all. So for example, at this end of the course, end of your course, you could write a research article, publish it somewhere, and then you can have your own Google Scholar page. So what does this figure refer to? Cited by. This refers to others. Now these are articles that I have written. I have written with other authors. So for example, this is one of the things I think some people usually make mistake of. Now when you write a research article as an undergraduate, you always have a supervisor. So anywhere you publish this research, it has to be published with the supervisor's consent, number one, right? Because the supervisor is the person who guided you for the research. The second thing is, anywhere you publish, usually the first author is you most of the time. First author is the person who had the most contribution. So in an undergraduate, normally you would expect everything to be done by major things to be done by an undergraduate. Therefore, you are the first author. Then the others in the preceding, I would say, order of contribution. The last person is usually the last in terms of contribution. That's like a de facto rule, but then it's not essential. So if you look at how many how many authors are there, there can be thousands. If there are some which have hundreds of authors. So that's right. Not in computing or fields like that, but in pure sciences, that's sometimes the case. So Now, in this case of this article, I am the second author, and it's referred by 39 people. That is, 39 people have in their articles, they have cited this paper. They have they have said this is useful to certain extent to our research. I mean, not like you refer. Now, when you write an article, when you cite someone, that shows that that paper has been used by you. That's what you're trying to do here. In the literature survey, you are trying to read some research articles, and then you are trying to figure out from that, these articles are important for my research, therefore I must use them as my references. So if you refer someone's article as a reference, that person's research gets linked here, which are citations. So I basically have 110 citations, meaning generally others may have referred my, hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? I think there was a power failure at the university. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So I think there was a power failure here. Right, so basically when you think of citations, so in your case, you are reading someone's articles, which is important for your research. Then that article, if it's really something which is important to your article, you cite it. So it gets listed on the author's publication list on, say, for example, Google Scholar as a citation. So the higher the citations, the better the impression of the research, right? So if you are looking at an article, if it has higher citations, that article is usually a good article, but it doesn't mean it's good for all articles. Like, for example, you don't really need to refer any article which has thousands of citations. You have to just look at whatever the articles that's important for your research, right? So that's the basic idea behind citations. So, hello? Right, I guess you can hear me again. Sorry, there's a power failure again here. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear.
Sorry, I guess there was power failure again. My Wi-Fi anyway disconnected. Right, so what you need when you are writing a research or literature survey first to start at this stage is you want to manage all these articles that you're reading, right? So you want to manage all the articles that you're reading, and for that you read a reference manager. And Mendeley, what we are going to now discuss, is a reference manager. It helps you manage your research work, right? It's free. So you can install it on your computer, on your like a desktop. You can install it on a mobile tablet, or you can use it on a web browser as well, right? It's also available on Windows or Mac or Linux, whatever. It's actually a software which is owned by a company called Elsevier, which is a Dutch owned company based in Netherlands. It's one of the world's largest publishers, which owns Mendeley. So Mendeley, there are other software which I'm not going to mention here. There's Zotero and many others. EndNote one is a very popular one, but this is free, so I've been using it. And so this software I first started using when I was doing my PhD, because I had a lot of articles to research. So what it helps, what's the purpose of Mendeley? So as you can see here, most of our articles are PDF articles, right? We can add it to this Mendeley store, right? So when we add it to Mendeley, it gets actually on a cloud, right? So it's added to a cloud database, and we can access it wherever we are. We can access on phone, we can access on mobile, rather smart tablet, you can access on desktop, laptop, or you can access on browser. So although it's mentioned here there are PDFs, you can use other forms of documents as well. We'll come to that. Okay. So the first thing you should do if you are trying to use Mendeley is to install Mendeley, right? So for that purpose, you need to create an account. Now, why is the account needed? You might wonder. This software can be downloaded, but the account is needed because it gives you the opportunity to sync sort of your files, the PDF files you refer in this, they get automatically uploaded to the cloud. For that, you need an account, right? So basically, you can go to mendeley.com and get an account. So how many of you have done that already? How many of, can you raise your hand? How many of you created account? Right. For the, if you are having a laptop or a desktop, please, if you haven't done, right? So please create an account now, right? Because it will be helpful for you to proceed with what I'm telling. Otherwise, the last part of what I'm going to tell you today, it might be a little difficult for you to follow because you are not doing it. You are just following, listening only, right? For the others, please try to do this. So the account, getting account is free. You can use whatever Gmail. Right, thank you. You can raise, lower your hands. So Mendeley Desktop is, we'll come to the demonstration part later, but right now I'm excited to explain. Mendeley Desktop is basically looks an interface like this, where it's actually list of resources that we hope to use in our research, right? So what are the resources? Usually PDF. They could be Word documents. They could be websites. They could be books or links from books. They could be text files. They can be different types of file. So Mendeley Desktop is something you install on your computer. That's the best way to do this. So you install Mendeley Desktop. It's the most convenient. So what's the purpose of installing? Basically to manage our resources, and the other benefits we'll see soon. Sometimes you might not be using your laptop or desktop. You want to access your research in the university, for example, although that's not very practical today. What can we do? You can log into the website and access your research articles as well, right? So you can access your research articles online as well. So please, that is the say one method. If you log on, you can use this today itself, even if you don't download. But as I said, please do install it if and when you can. Right. So when you think of a PDF document, what are the things that now you have read some articles up to now. So what are the things that you have identified in this research article as important for you, right? When you when you read an article, what do you normally do? Can someone tell me now, how many articles have you read and how many of them are useful? Now, every article you read may not be relevant for your research. Now, sometimes you get an article, you see it on the site, looks interesting, you get it download, but then you think it's not what what it was. So how do you select an article which is important for you? One of the ways you can do is, of course, you can read the article's abstract. That's a good indication of whether it is good or not. The other is you can just read the abstract, but then you might have to scan it. You can just quickly flip to the pages and see whether it is important. So for example, now some of the articles that I have here are articles related to the students who are doing research work right now with me. So I printed it, but printing is not essential. So I print it. So sometimes what I do is like, say I get an article which is a PDF file. Then I first read the abstract. That's after you read the abstract and you just skim through the pages, like you open the pages and see, just sections. Okay, there's a conceptual model, or there is, design science based artifact, and there is some methodology you have done, some data is there, there's a discussion and some, things which looks like interesting. If you make that decision, what you can do is you can add it to this database. No, so in other words, don't add every PDF you get. That's a little waste of effort. So we'll look now at how you can add these articles. So we call this process as setting as a library. So the process is called setting up a library. So it's really your library, your collection of documents, right? So how can we do this? So for this purpose, I will share my Mendeley account. Now, since I am using my existing account, it might look a little complicated in that there's a lot of articles here. So can you see my desktop screen? I guess you should. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, right. So the first thing that we will try to do is try to identify features of this article. Rather than look at all the features here, I will tell you how you add articles using the most straightforward method. Right. So let me start for that. Can someone send me an article that is important for them? Can someone share an article, like a web link for an article that is important for them? Or let me try to get an article. Right. So this is an article. So this is the PDF. Sorry. So this is an article which is give me a second. Now, now let's say I am doing a research, and this article, the one I just took, is an article. Can you see the screen which I am loading now? A PDF file. Can you see this? Yes. Right. So this article, let's say, is important for my research. It is not in this case, right? So now when I find this important. So what I would do is I download the file, right? Now, then I go to can you see my Mendeley screen? I am on Mendeley. Can you see it? Mendeley desktop.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So now my purpose here is to add that PDF I downloaded onto this. Why? Because it is important for my research. So there are different ways of doing it. The first way, by the way, the presentation I shared with you, I will give the whole PowerPoint slide set, right? So you don't need to, memorize anything. I'll give the slide set itself. The recording will also be available, right? So here, one method is to go here and select add files. That's one method. But what I will do instead is I will, so this is in downloads in my computer. So I will get this file and drag it here. I'll again repeat, just drag it to this list. So drag and drop, release. So what happens here? Can you see it has been added? Can you see? Brin S, page L, the anatomy of large scale hypertextual search engine. And so it says added to 16, that is now. Published in this, this is a journal, year 1998. Now, how did this information come here? This is what we call as like metadata or information relevant to that particular PDF. So if you are downloading a file as a PDF file today from a site like a journal or conference, chances are this information is automatically captured by Mendeley. In other words, Mendeley software can actually grab this information. Right now, it might look not so relevant, but as we go on, I'll show you why it is important to capture this information, or we will modify it. So right now, you've got this information properly, right? Now, if I double click this article, the full article is viewable here, like a PDF file, right? So I don't need that, so I'll just close it. There are other methods. Add files, you can go and add the folder. Then there are add folders. You can add a whole folder of PDFs. That's an easy method for you. If you have already had PDFs like in one folder, you can go and add. Then there's something called watch folder. Watch folder is a folder which currently has nothing, but every time you put something, automatically Mendeley will get it. That is, like you keep a folder called my research folder. Anytime you put anything on that, if Mendeley is working, Mendeley will automatically grab it and put it here. Then there is something called add entry manually. That will allow you to add information manually. What are the information you add? In a paper, what are the essential information that is there? So in your, you normally have authors. They are the people who wrote that article. Then there is a journal or a conference. The year of publication. If it's a journal, there will be a volume, like which edition, and volume and issue. Volume is usually annual, and then there are issues. How many years it's, how many times a year it's published. Then pages. So the page number. Page number does not mean 1 to something. Can you see here? That is pages in that particular publication. So you see here 106 to 170. That's the page which you see at the bottom here. It's a part of a book, right? So this information is captured. Now, for those of whom have done, those of who has already installed Mendeley, they can try this, right? I want you to, one of you to share your screen later so that we can learn from it, right? So if you have already installed Mendeley, please download a file. If you may already have a file, drag and drop it. That's the easiest method. Sometimes when you drag and drop, the information, so the information you get is visible here under details. So this is all automatically taken. Sometimes some of the information, if it is incorrect or if it's properly not named, you can modify this. So this, at this point, we can modify. If there's an error in what was automatically captured, we can modify it. Sometimes there are situations like that, the paper will not read this electronic information on the metadata. So you need to capture it. So like that, the number of papers that you need for your article, you will add. So when you go on, adding articles. So my one has 100 plus articles for sure, right? So when you see all documents here, so it's a reasonable lot of articles. So if you see the year, some of them I have no year. That means I have not properly added them. That's wrong actually. I just added things to test. Then, but the others from 86 onwards, I've added up to 2020, right? So these are, so this collection of mine is of course rather large, but if you are writing a research paper like yours, you don't need, you may need around 10 or 15, which is relevant for your research work. So especially at the literature survey, you need most of them cited. So in the literature survey, what are you doing? You actually are involved in noting relevant researchers' publications for your research. So the first thing you should do is you add the papers that are important for you to Mendeley, right? So you add the papers. Now, after you add the papers like this, it is useful if you check the metadata, the main important ones, if it's correct. First add, second you sort of get it on. There are other methods to add. So the method we said currently is what we talked of here. I will talk of this advanced features later. Right now we just go a little bit further. So if you want, you can install a web browser plugin or a add-on to Chrome or Firefox, which can be used to add, it's called Mendeley Web Importer. And on the website also there are papers that some people can suggest to you. What is suggest mean? So it's based on what you have been downloading or adding to your database. Mendeley will recommend. So recommending is a machine learning or basically a method which calculates the relevance based on what you already used. So Mendeley can suggest you articles as well. So this Mendeley Web Importer is a plugin you can use on the browser to import files. So that is from your web browser, you can directly put to Mendeley. You don't need to download it again. That's also useful. Then, once you add articles like this, somewhere on your screen, there is a sync button. I'll go back to my earlier screen. Can you see here the sync? What does sync mean? What does sync refer to? So sync is here. It's even under synchronized library here. So can someone tell me what sync would mean like? So basically this picture is can give you an idea. Sync is the files you downloaded can be automatically uploaded, or not automatically, let's say in this case, when you press sync, it uploads them to a cloud. And if there are other computers which you use, it will automatically download them later. Now, I'll tell you where this helps. Now, in my case, when I was doing my research in my, for my PhD, I had two computers which I used for my work. One was in my lab or my university, and the other was at home. So I used to work at home sometimes or the university, but I might, when I want the research articles, I don't carry the research articles every day, but they are on Mendeley. So when I upload something from my office computer, it automatically gets downloaded to my home computer as well, and actually to the cloud. So now if I click here on Mendeley Desktop Sync, it will take, you can see at the bottom here, retrieving folders, and it will check retrieving removed documents. So you can remove and you can add as well. So synchronizing files and so on. It's done. So this needs to be done normally like once you have an article, so that it gets uploaded to the cloud and also download from, if you are using it at another place, you need to sync again, right? Right. So now, like this, you can add PDF. So right now, let's say for this to start with, you can add PDFs rather quickly. So what are the other things you would add? So how many of is there now, all of you? Is there any other thing you have to add other than PDFs? Has there been anything else other than PDFs you need to add? Anyone?
Website articles.
Yes. So website articles. Now let's say there is an article. It's now let's say you are referring to something. It's not a research article, right? It's a news article. Could be relevant, right, for your research. You want to show, okay, the internet crime or whatever is increasing. There is a according to the news on this website, so many people have been caught, stealing or something like that. So you are using a statistic, but it's not a web. It's not. You are going to say, okay, so many people are using internet in Sri Lanka. You want to cite the article, but there's no article. It's a website. So what you can do, if that is the case, so let's say I want to cite for some reason. Okay, I want to cite this article. This one I referred to, right? So this is the address. So I'll copy this. Then I will go to Mendeley, add entry manually. What is the type? The type is a web page. The author. So I'll skip this for a moment. The URL, you know what URL, Uniform Resource Locator. So the URL is that website I just copied. Then what is the author? So in this case, the author is some person called Matt Might, right? Professor in computer science, right? So what I would do is author so it automatically is then publication. There is no publication here, it's just a website. Year. So what is the year for this? So so there is no year mentioned here, but he says how to cite it as well, right? So you can skip the year, but there's an article heading as is given here. Illustrated Guide to a PhD. So that is what appears here. Right, so no pages, etc. Okay. Then there are others. Date access is very important. So date access is when is the date you watch this website. Now, when it comes to web pages, that is very important because web pages change. So I might put 27. Right. Then there is no abstract here. There is something called tags and author keywords. Author keywords are, what are author keywords? Have you seen this word author keywords in your papers? Can someone tell me? What are author keywords? Ganguly?
Keywords that are used mentioned by the author to get an idea about what the research is about.
Correct, exactly. So when the author is the person who writes, I mean, he has an idea, okay, this paper is about this. So if you ask him, okay, can you tell me in 5 words what this research article is? The author decides some 5 like keywords. So that's according to the author what the paper is about in terms of concepts. So the key author keywords here are the author keywords that are given in your paper. Usually on a paper, the author keywords are just after the abstract, right? So can you see in this paper, keywords, World Wide Web, search engine, information retrieval, PageRank, Google. So like those article, whatever the keywords that are, if there are there, you can add here. Tags are something like keywords, but the difference here is tags are your words. Tags are words which are given by the Mendeley user here, because that is how he identifies it. Now let's say I am writing a research about Google. So then I could just write Google here. If I'm writing a research about, I'm just studying about the personality of Sergey Brin, what he did, like a sociology research. Then I will be inserting Sergey Brin here, or his contribution, or the contribution to search engines, or something like that. So the tags, these tags are totally dependent upon the author, whereas author keywords are the words exactly given by the author in the paper. And click save. So here you see Matt Might, Illustrator Guides PhD. You don't see the PDF sign here. Why? There is no PDF file here. It's only here. So no year published, but added time is there. Now like this, can you add a few articles to your Mendeley desktop? Can you add? We'll give you 5 minutes. I'll tell you why we need to add it. Right? So we will give you 5 minutes to add articles for your desktop. Right, it's 2:32, 2:37 I will start back. Okay, so how many of you managed to enter some articles? Can you raise your hand if you managed to enter some articles to Mendeley? Right. Okay, so I would like to for you to share some of these with the others, so that it will help others who are not able to install today to actually learn from the experience. What I'm trying to say is, now my one looks very complicated, but then I would like to share, if one of you, a few of you, permit me to share your screen so that I can use it to make it a bit more, the experience to be better. Right. So let me just, so if you have added articles, these are some important things you will identify. So there is something called a library, which under which everything is there. So all documents contain all the documents, you whatever the type, PDF, links, whatever is there. Recently added are things in 2 weeks. Recently read means what you have read. Read means you just clicked it and opened it, right? Starred is like, stars, favorites, like, what is important for you. Question mark means items which have been added, but you haven't checked whether the details are correct, right? So that's available. Now, if I go back to sharing my screen, you see here these features are available, right? These are the folders. I actually have some folders here. That's to break down because I'm doing lots of a reasonable amount of research I've done, let's say. So this is relevant for those, right? Then these are the articles, and these starred articles are, for some reason, is important for me, right? The green ones are what I've read. So for example, this article which I added, I haven't read. Well, it's called as unread. So if I want, I can just click and say read, right? So we click here, star, likewise. PDF means the PDF file. Remember, if I click sort it by, you can sort this. If I sort by added list, the MatMite link has no PDF. It's just a link. right? So I can sort by any order. I can sort by author, I can sort by title, journal, year, date, right? Okay, so in addition, uh, the folders are basically there to separate your work. You can, as later we will find out, some of these folders you can share. Like you don't normally share, but for example, I share folders with my students. So when a student of mine does research articles, I automatically should see them on Mendeley. Then I know, okay, yes, read this article. Right? I don't need to download it. I don't need to email it again. That's waste of time. Right? You can search your articles as well. So for example, if I want to search a term, right? So let's say so if I type brain, right? So here the word brain is somewhere, it gets up. But if I want to narrow it down, I can click authors. Author brain. Right? So I can search like that. Sorry. Yeah. Right. So once you do a search, you can clear it. You can search within folders. You can remove searches. You know, all this. You know, those are elementary things, right? You can search if you want to find out. Let's say you get all these articles, but you're looking for a word. Which paper was this Google mentioned? No, you can't remember. You want to search all the articles together. That helps, right? You have 10 articles. You can't be again reading all 10 articles, right? To find where it is. So you don't need to do 10 finds. You can do this one and search all your articles as long as they are PDF files which can be read, right? Sometimes there are PDF articles which are scanned, and if the letters cannot be read, that's of course a problem. So if you download it from a website, it is very a strong possibility. Like within the recent past, all papers are usually electronically produced, so you can read them. So I mentioned about the tags, but there's another thing you should know. You can filter by tags. I'll show you what that means. I'll clear the search. This is all the articles. Now these are tags I have included during my PhD, or maybe some other articles. So some of these are very little technical: accelerometer, Arduino, base, blue LED, body posture, camera, ethnography, fast Fourier transform, FTIR. All these are articles. So now these are things I labeled in my papers, right? So my papers have these terms. So what I would do, let's say for example, line tracer. If I click this, it has one article, IR LEDs. Sorry. Again, one article. But IR camera, okay, one article. Maybe blue LED. Oops. There are 3 articles. So I have read 3 articles. They talk of blue light emitting diodes, it's LEDs, or let's say web camera, 2 articles. So these I have done because, especially during the literature survey, I am going to talk of these texts. I'm going to say two authors have used web cameras to detect hands, right? And within the I will say author A, author B. That's how I cite. Some of them, one of them has detected a scoop gesture using the hands. That's in my case. And later on, I can say machine learning is often used to detect gestures. One of the most popular, one of the recently used one is called SVM, right? So it's support vector machines. So likewise, when I'm writing my literature survey, what I have tagged here is important for me to collate or like combine. Otherwise, now the right way of literature survey is to combine concepts. Sorry, combine research papers into concepts. So you have to come up with what are the important features, like factors, for example, in some cases that are relevant for your research. Now, if the case is different, you will have to identify what. When you are writing, this is important. Don't write paper A. So let's say paper A is about factors affecting Facebook usage. It was by this person. He did this. He used this the sample size. He used. So one paragraph or two paragraphs for one research article, that's not a literature survey. That's like summarizing. You can just copy the cut and paste the abstract. That's not a good literature survey. So in the literature survey, you have to coin it up in such a way that you are giving authors, okay, he has read all these articles and found these articles are relevant for this factor in his research. That's why he has combined it. That's a good way. That's how literature survey should be done, right? So the tags are important for you to, when you are reading, you will use the tags to mark what is important in that paper. I hope that's clear. Right? Okay. Another thing that you can do is check for duplicates. That is, sometimes you download files from different sources. Now, if you are in a really hurry, you download from there. Another friend gives another paper. Sometimes, let's say a friend of yours did research last year, and you are trying to steal some information from that. And there are some articles from that. You will get that. Likewise. So, end of the day, if there are duplicates, you can find them out. There's a tool where if you have added the same file, you can identify that. That's not so much an important place because you are not going to download hundreds of files. But sometimes, like if you're doing now, in my case, my research work started in 2011, and then I had PhD completed in 2016. So when I'm writing in 2015, I might forget what I put in the year one. So I might re-add the same article. So you can check for duplicates. Then the next part of a reference manager, what you can do is you can annotate articles. So if you click a PDF file, you get to this screen, which is like a PDF writer or a reader, sorry. And in that, you can highlight, right? You can click notes. You can add notes. And you can share this with your supervisor if the supervisor uses Mendeley, right? So you can share this, and or you can, so you can highlight in different ways, highlight text like a highlight rectangle, like, okay, this is important, like using a highlighter pen, right? So those are saved with the article. So if you just go back and double click this, you see this saved, see? So it's like, now in the traditional case, what people used to do, what I would do earlier is I use a page like this, and I just use a highlighter to mark. You don't need that today. You should use Mendeley, right? And it's already within your repository, right? So you can just add posts. Right, now we come to the most important part. But before we do this, I want to double check whether, so this is the whole purpose. Now question is, now you might wonder, why are we really wasting all this time? It's, we read the paper. So why is it that we should, add this to a database? What's the purpose? We're just going to do it for 6 months, right? So the answer for that is, when you are referencing, when you are writing your research work in the end of the 4 months or 5 months or 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, you will need to refer the articles properly. So when you do this, if you use a reference manager, you can just close your eyes and forget referencing if you have done it properly in the first stage. Using a reference manager is very useful. The power of a reference manager is visible when you are writing your article. You're writing a conference paper, journal paper, your thesis. That's where you will figure the value. So for that, the first step is you have to add things properly. So before we go on to this step, right, I want to just share some, can some of you share your screens? Like, can someone, so I will stop sharing. I want to just see the screens shared by some of you, like, can someone share the how many, like a few files you have added? It'll be useful. I think what's that? Ishara, you had added some articles, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I think, look, how many articles have you read? It's a lot. It's quite good.
Yeah, I added a bit because I was referring these days.
Okay, so I will take your screen to just give you some suggestions, right? Now, in this paper that you have highlighted here, you are using a quotation. I don't think a quotation is usually part of the title. I mean, so if you look at this article, factors affecting consumer adoption of e-walls in India, I don't think it's the quotation mark should be there. Where did you get this article from?
Google Scholars.
Right, now see here the word ISSN and all, that is not part of the title. Maybe that is automatically taken from the, now that's actually, okay, can you find this article for me? Just go to Google Scholar and because I'll help you sort this out. It will be useful for others as well. Now go, I'm only seeing the Mendeley screen, but if you show me a link, which, can you remember the place where you got this file?
I got it from Google Scholar. Shall I search it?
Yeah, let me check on my screen and see.
Shall I share?
Sorry, hold on. Factors affecting the consumer's adoption of e-wallet in India. And right, I have got this article from ResearchGate, right? So,
yes, sorry.
but it doesn't. So it is. Yeah. Okay. So the original article is having a quotation. You are correct. But I believe this original article is not on the internet. So now, okay, I'll just. I have two comments about this article. So now, in this case, if you look at okay, I'll take this as an example, right? Now this article is good to read and good to figure out, but the message from this, you have to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt, I would say. That is, like, you have to be careful, because this is taken you are taking this from a ResearchGate location, which is, ResearchGate is basically like a, it's like a Facebook to researchers, where anyone can put whatever they want. Now here it says there's Alochana Chakra Journal. Now that Alochana Chakra Journal has no website, right? So some of the information here, you can refer it, no problem, but it may be, so there are some gaps in the information, right? So actually can you see here, it says a ISSN number. So that number is, you can search somewhere and see whether there's a journal like that. So this, now when you are filling this information, the title should be Factors Affecting the Consumer Study of E-walls and Integral Study. You can actually do the quotation mark and just put that. I don't have the access to your mobile, the mouse, but if you select factors affecting consumer adoption of e-wallets in India and empirical study. That's the title. Now the authors are two authors. The what is selected here as author is one is incorrect. So you have to modify that. Is the idea clear, Isha?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like so that sort of mistakes in the detection you have to fill. Sometimes it will happen, right? Okay, so can you go back? So you have to, so that's an important thing you have to do, because otherwise the next step we are going to do is not going to work. Okay, so most of the others are, I think, properly taken. So you see, if now here the one before that also there is some missing part. Halim constitutions driving interest in e-wallets in generation is said. There is no journal. Click that one. Now here you have to fill. It's a conference article. Can you give me the mouse control? Then I can tell you what. How should I? Yeah, I can. Thank you. Right. So now here, actually, it is not a journal article.
Yes.
You have to change it to conference proceeding, because this is a conference. Can you see here? Proceedings of international conference. Then proceeding title is this. That's the proceeding title. So here it goes, that one goes here. Then volume number is not 1, sorry, 1 1, right? 1 1. Page is correctly taken. Year is 2020. That part is correctly taken. So that's all. Other things are, I think, correctly received, right? So if you took it from the web, you can actually add this URL. That's not so important. And also something I made mention for others' benefit. Now here, most of these articles, you don't have to type all of this. I told you, right? Now let's say, for example, this article I typed here on the conference, I will delete this, okay? Can you see here a DOI, something called a DOI, it's an address. If you type the DOI number here, is this properly typed? I believe so. And if you plus here, now look here, this is missing, right? This is missing. If you click here and click find, now this is automatically taken. Again, I'll repeat that idea because that's a very powerful feature. Most good articles, not every article in the world, good articles, good in the sense stored in a repository, stored in a proper repository, stored in a location which could be even dubious. Like so, a DOI is one way you can filter not so good publications, not so good instance, not so good publications, not the paper or the author, but the place. Let's say when you want to buy some item, you go and figure, by the look of the shop, you try to figure out, is this a shop which is trustworthy? Likewise, a DOI is one way you can trust a location or conference. So if you click this after entering what is given here, can you see here? If you type it properly and click this question like magnify, anything here will automatically be captured. I'll show you that. I will show you that. Okay, thank you. I'll copy it. Sorry. Thank you, Ishara. Wait, I'll copy this. Now I will just stop your screen for a while. Can you stop sharing, please? Now I copied Ishara's article. I am going to go into my Mendeley. Can you see my Mendeley screen?
Yes.
Right. All of you can see, right? Now I will click new article. Add annuity manually. Now I don't enter any of this. I go to DOI. Type the. Oops, sorry. I think I didn't. It got it copied. Can you just, Ishara? Can you copy that text to the chat?
Yes.
DOI. Put it on the chat. Now I will copy this. Anyone else can do this. Of course, you have to delete the reference because it's only for Isha. Then I will go to DOI here, paste it, and click this magnify symbol. Look up. If it is proper, all the information relevant, if it is properly done, all the information relevant should get here. Right? If it is proper. Now, in this case, it's not quite proper because the authors are missing. Right? But can you see the title came, the proceedings came. So it's maybe something wrong. So this, if it's something's wrong, also that is beyond our control. But we can modify it. So if I take the paper, I can go and add the authors as given on the paper. Normally, a DOI will get all the correct information. Right? Now, let me just so that's how you get articles. So shall I just go on to someone else? Can someone else also please share the screen? Who else has completed a few articles? Yes? Lakshana, how about you?
Yes, sir, I added few.
Okay, I'll stop my screen. I just need to, can you share your screen? Okay, so now in your case, again, the last one here, the information is not properly captured. So if can you just allow me to control the screen?
Now given, sir.
Okay, right, thanks, hold on. I'm having this, wait, hold on, this is my, wait a minute. Okay, now, sorry. Yeah, so now here the journal has not been taken again, right? So if you see here the list, if you click the article, now this article is from a university, it's a master's thesis. So that is not a journal article. That's why this happens. So here you have to change the article type. I think there's an article called thesis. Yeah. So it's not, then this information will, actually you don't need this information. Page is needed. There is no volume, I think. Year is needed. Right. So master's thesis usually has only one person. Right. If it's a master's thesis. This is one person, I think. I don't know. It's rather strange because thesis is usually, not sure whether it's one person's name or not, but anyway. Right. So you might have to figure that out. Usually it's a maybe the supervisor's name is also mentioned here. Right. Anyway, so again, you have correct as, did you enter this? Lakshana, or did it automatically come?
No, sir.
Okay.
I
You did. Okay. So then it is automatically come, I think, but that's fine. So that now when it comes to a thesis, it's not a conference paper, it's not a journal. So it's good to put the URL where you took it from. It will not get a DOI. DOIs are usually for journal or conference articles normally, or like things you put in a like a repository basically. So this will not carry that, right? So yes, so you can fill maybe this information you could feel like where it is from, the department or the university. That might be important. Chalmers University is I think in Sweden, right?
Yes.
So that you can fill. I think the others, again, this one. Now this is a website, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it's web page, correct? So you put the author. You can have the year here, right? If you know the year of publication, pages is not no publication. Yeah. Other than that, I think you have put everything. Date access is fine, right? Okay. So that basically right. Thank you, Lakshana. I'll close. Can you wait? Can you stop sharing, please?
No,
Okay, thanks.
thank you, sir.
Right, now, if all of you have done something like this, the next step will show you how to use it using the Mendeley citation plugin. So this is where actually we will spend, this is the real, what you spend so far is just time to figure out the most important feature and what to come to that. But beyond this, actually we will not need other features so much. So for this next step, what we need is Microsoft Word, which is the tool we are going to write our research papers. So Word has a plugin, this option here. Can you see? Install MS Word plugin. You have to run this once in your computer, right? For those who set up like now, like Ishara, like Lakshana, if you have to run this first time only, right? That's one time after you install it. That's it. If you click install MS Word plugin, it will automatically install it in 1 minute, which means inside Microsoft Word, you will be able to use Mendeley, right? So you will see a citation and which we'll use and we'll create this. So let me demonstrate these activities now using my Microsoft Word screen, right? So let me create a new Word document. Right. Now let's say I'm writing the article, right? Chapter 1. I'll just put chapter 1, right? Right. Now let's say Google search was introduced in 1998. Now for that, I have an article. So what I should do is I have to refer that article within bracket Sergey Brin this year. Now for that, I don't need to write anything here. I go to review, references and insert citation. There's a shortcut for it as well, Alt M, right? If you click this small toolbar comes. Now, in this I type, search the person's name, Brin. Here is the article. I click this, right? Okay. And automatically this comes up. It's a field, right? Then let's say I go up to, I just put some random text. You know how to put random text in Word, I guess, right? So I just put some articles. Here I want to say cite another article. Alt M, right? So I'll just put my name because I have articles which I've written here. You can cite yourself, right? If you have articles, it's all, although it's overdoing it is not good. You can cite your articles as long as there's a relevance for that article, right? Then at another place, I will see another article. Let's say Alt M. Sorry. Alt M. Say. Then I can. Sometimes you have several references, so I will write another one. Right. Let's say I'm just, this is not relevant articles, but I'm just trying to put something, right? Click OK. Now you see here, you don't edit anything inside. You just add, you add a citation here, here, here. Then let's say I go to some other place. So it did always at the bottom. So it could be after a sentence here. So you add here Alt M. Then okay. So all of these are in your Mendeley database. You just added them in using the word plugin. Under references, you see a toolbar. It's the Mendeley toolbar called Mendeley Cytomatic. So we just click this, right? So you write your chapters. Where do you put your references? Where do you put your references? Where do you put the reference list normally? Savindi? Where do you normally put the references? References are what are the articles you read? Where do you put that normally?
The end of the research.
Correct. So at the end, you have a section called references, right? So at that point, now we need the list of the references. So what we do is go to references, click insert bibliography. Now look closely what happens. Insert bibliography, I just click it and all the links come here. Now all of them are coming with all these data. Where are they coming from? They are coming from the Mendeley database, right? We don't change anything here. We can only change the formats. We change formatting like font, alignment that you can change, but you don't change text here. You have to go to Mendeley and change it. For example, let's say this Sergey Brin's article, I have put the name of the article incorrect. So I have to go to Mendeley and correct it, not here, right? If there is a change. Then again, these citations, now let's say when I write, let's say I have only put this. Couple of minutes later, I find there's another article I need to write. So what I would do, I don't delete it, go click here and select Alt M. Already there's one there. I will put the other name. So I'll just put something else, right? Okay. Now I put a new article called Visual Storm something. If you click here, it is automatically coming. It automatically comes once you add the references. If you add another article, let's say I will add something here, Alt M. So this is, let's say, it's a website. It's not a proper bit. Okay, this is a book. Okay. Floyd, this book. It's a book, not a, so it's book is with the Amazon link, right? Then let's say I add a new reference here, Alt M. Right, so it says Microsoft Kinect. If you click here, Microsoft Kinect 2015, right? Now you may have seen there are different formats when you refer. This, but what is the style you are supposed to use? Harvard? Are you familiar? Have you been told this? What style of writing have you got to be used? Is it
Yes,
Harvard?
it's Harvard.
Harvard. So then I have to select Harvard from this. This is Harvard. Now automatically it changes. See, now the format is different. Right? Now it's Harvard format. Right? Then now this, so the style can be automatically changed. There is something called IEEE, which is used for IEEE conference papers. If you click that, IEEE format has no names here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, likewise there, and here also it is referred to that. Automatically set up. Right, so Nature is another publication. You can change that format if you want. So Nature has, can you see, it's a different format, the superscripted numbers. Right, so you don't use, but you can. So all of this can be done automatically when you use it. Now, other than this method, of course, Microsoft Word has a similar formatting. But the disadvantage with Microsoft Word has some features like that. Disadvantage is there the PDFs are not recorded. You can't. You are having a list, but it's not synchronized. It's on your computer. If your computer fails, your whole work gets out. Here, this database is online. So even if your computer fails, your data, the research papers, everything is, of course, your research document you have to protect. Okay, if you email this to someone, this will be visible, but they can't edit the text, right? But when you get it back, still it will be editable. Let's say if you send your supervisor and it comes back later, you can still edit the content connected with Mendeley, right? So this is the major part of what this was about. So basically, you add citations, right, in your text like this. Then you can merge, you can add several of them. Then you can insert the bibliography. Once that is the references, basically. That's what we did, right? So the citation styles, I mentioned this already using the demo, right? You can, so you are mainly using Harvard or APA. I think so. You have to start by using Harvard. From here, you will get it list. It's already there, right? Right. So basically, that is the major part what I wanted to discuss. But in beyond that, right, there is a few more things that you can learn from. So you can actually create groups on Mendeley and share your articles, right? So there is mainly groups. So usually I used to create groups with my students sometimes where whatever they cite, I will see, right? So it helps me to track what you do, right? And also it allows people to let's say you can comment collaboratively, like collaborative work, teamwork, right? Some groups are public, but the groups that you create with your supervisor or someone are private. Private is basically only for yourself. So this is, can you see the color coded commenting and so on? People can do as team. No, team means now normally research is done not just to supervisor and student. Sometimes there are research groups. We have multiple. Now some of the research that I am involved in, there are maybe people in different countries who are working on the same article. So where you might see people commenting here and there, and someone is responsible for merging it. Right. So there are public groups for research on Mendeley. You can search articles there as well. Right. So you can look at these articles and see. You can also create profiles, which is not so important. But then once you have a Mendeley account, you can create. But I wouldn't recommend you to waste time. It's good if you are really doing a lot of research work where people will come and look at your research. I certainly haven't done that. Right. So if you have something like that, if you have research work already, you can put them there, right? Then you can on the Mendeley site, there is new research you can find. You can look for new research, and there's a catalog which you can sort of search for articles. This is an important thing, related documents. So you can, if you have already articles in your repository, Mendeley will somehow recommend, okay, if you have read about Facebook addiction, why don't you read these articles? So that's also a good way of finding new articles, although may not be necessarily good, relevant for you. It saves you time. Sometimes you can look, rather than searching for things, what Mendeley recommends, you can consider, right? You can use if it's relevant. Right. So I think basically you needed to. So what I mentioned here, what I discussed, is available on Mendeley itself. This PowerPoint slide I didn't prepare. I'm a Mendeley advisor, which I mean I'm presenting information about Mendeley. So I want to hear feedback from you. So Mendeley's like about this, like not problems, more than that, like how you're going to use it and so on. So please do comment, and if so, when sometimes there are possibilities that Mendeley is, as I said, part of Elsevier, which is one of the largest research publication institutes, and it's normally like one of the things that they find like useful is, so they want to promote this software. So sometimes they give out small tokens. I've actually asked for some, but I haven't received them yet. So depending on the feedback, if I get some things which I can share, like small souvenirs, I might send them around. Not for all, I might not get for all, but anyway, we'll see. Right. So that's basically it. So for the basic, there's other information, videos available on Mendeley Help, right? How to cite, guides, install. There's a lot of things free available. So I'm part of this community. And if you see here somewhere, I think, where's events? See this event, I've added today's event there. So basically I had opened it up for anyone available, and I added it because as a I'm promoting its use. Right. Okay. So that's basically what I want to talk about. Any questions? Yes. Anything you wanted to do but couldn't do? No questions? Right. I don't see any questions. I don't want to waste time. If you are not having any questions, that means either you have learned totally or you haven't at all. So if you have, I think you have around a week to prepare your literature survey, I think. So good luck with your literature survey, and hope you do a good job at the presentation. So I hope you got a better, my intention was not just to talk about Mendeley, but also take you through some other important steps which you should keep in mind in terms of research. Like if you are doing research, you should know what idea you should have an idea about what you are doing and why it is important, and to do it properly, right? And also one of the things that people used to make mistakes is they publish their once they publish without supervisor's consent, and that's very ignorance and more than anything else. But I hope you will not fall into the same trap. Okay, so that's it then. It's 3:30. We took 2 hours, but unfortunately we started late. Okay, so we'll see everyone at the presentations. Good luck.